What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here with the quartering. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. That is, if it is Wednesday when you're watching this video. We've got 2 videos ready to go today, and then the weekly podcast with Count Dankula and Bearing tonight at 6 p.m. Central Time over on the Incredible Salt Mine channel. I want to let everyone know, late last night, I uploaded a thank you video, a 500,000 subscriber thank you video that was about as wholesome of a video as I could ever have made. So if you missed that, I'm going to link it in the pinned comment below. Check it out. I want to say thank you all so very much. So, the women of Endgame deserved more, and then this headline itself tells you exactly what the author is thinking. Now, this article does contain some stronger spoilers that I'm going to skip, okay? I realize that a lot of people haven't seen the film, and I'm going to try to not, read direct spoilers if I can. Now, the idea of deserving more is exactly the thing that I'm talking about when critics, quote, air quote, today, are looking at films. They are saying that the film owes more to society than to simply entertain them, to provide 2 or 3 hours of escapism from the humdrum life of the rat race. It is to do more than to provide some laughs. It's to do more than to allow a family or friends to get together for just a few hours and enjoy something together before getting back on with the dregs of life. That's right. Films are supposed to do stuff for women or people of color or whatever the particular narrative of that day is. I'm sure this article will exist that will zero in on some of the people of color in the film. We'll see endless narrative spins with Avengers Endgame because it will be the biggest film of all time. But this particular article is ridiculous. The idea that the movie owes anyone anything besides entertainment is absurd. By the way, if you're enjoying these videos, I've definitely noticed that the search algorithm has changed on Avenger Endgame topics to push like entertainment tonight and crap above. So if you do enjoy it, remember to like the video and especially leaving comments too. I read them all and I do appreciate that. So I want to get into some of the hotter takes in this video, in this article that aren't super specific to spoilers. Avengers Endgame was a riot of flashy fights and fan service with enough humor thrown in to sometimes feel like a great comedy. It was silly and nonsensical, but above all, it was entertaining. Okay, it did its job, but that's not enough. And when it needed to hit the emotional, dramatic beats, it usually nailed them. Yet there was a point in the film where I found myself distracted from the sheer inundation of fun. When it became clear that the many, many powerful heroines of the piece weren't quite on par with the heroes. They were props. They were there to support the story of the guys. Endgame did women no favors, and it's time we talked about it. Well, thank goodness. Now, that is to obviously ignore that Iron Man, Captain Marvel, and Thor are the absolute epitome of the Avengers, okay? Yes, Hulk and Black Widow are also there too, but these are the faces of the Avengers. The Iron Man films, the Thor films, these Captain America films, these are the films that have always grown strong. These are the characters that have the strongest following. And the argument that this author is pathetically trying to make is that it's because they're men. No, they just have the deepest lore. They are and have always been the most popular characters of the Avengers cast. So yes, a lot of the side characters, which includes many men, by the way, people like Ant-Man, people like Hawkeye, he is a true Avenger too, but he's still a sideshow to those 3 gentlemen and always have been. That's just the way it works. Not everyone can be the star. A star needs a great supporting cast. So the same goes for a lot of the women, and I thought some of the women had some very powerful moments in the film, but I guess it wasn't enough, especially Captain Marvel doing what the entire Avengers team couldn't do in a blink of an eye in the film, but I won't go into that. So they continue. The point that drove this home for me was actually the moment I seen praised by others. Captain Marvel returns from her 2-hour hiatus. Oh, that was a great 2 hours. In the film to collect the Infinity Gauntlet from Peter Parker. Sure, he's the audience just there. I'm sorry. To collect the Infinity Gauntlet. Sure, he and the audience just saw her destroy Thanos' ship in a heartbeat, but he still asks how she'll be able to get through the entire army to deliver the gauntlet where it needs to be. Well, geez, I suppose that was an oppressive question by the young boy Peter Parker at that time. Again, another sideshow character in the Avengers Endgame that nobody's complaining about. It's just a brief shot, but we feel like there's someone meeting out a diversity cookie. I'm sorry, it's just a brief shot. Then we get a big splashy shot of almost every single woman in the film, chests puffed out, heroically and lit by a murky sun through a cloud of debris. There are so many women among them are the two most powerful characters in the film, not named Thanos. Right. Okay, so this is talking about the girl power moment in the film. This is not a big deal that you know about this. There is a point in a chaotic battle where magically all the women in the Avengers series appear in one spot for a slay queen moment, which is completely inorganic and completely takes you out of the film. My wife, who doesn't have any idea, she's never watched one of my 1,000 videos on YouTube, she has no idea what I talk about down here, leaned over during the movie and said, and I quote, "That was dumb." So people that aren't even kind of aware of the narrative and aware of what's going on behind the scenes when they want to push these things can't see that it's a forced diversity cookie, as the author points out. But it's just a brief shot, one that feels more like someone meting out a diversity cookie than lifting up a group of characters who almost always take a backseat in both films' narratives and its marketing. Well, that's because they aren't the main characters. Ultimately, the women do little more than, quote, look cool and buy more time before Iron Man and Captain America and Thor can do the real work. Yes. So, this is also the truth of all the male characters in the film. Where are all the raccoon activists out there complaining that, Rocket, while being integral in the film, was almost nowhere to be seen in the final fight scene? Where are all the people out there? Where are Drax's supporters? Where are all the supporters of Star-Lord? These characters were completely irrelevant in the entire movie, and nobody's writing that article. That's because this movie, The Avengers, is about Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, and the main characters. Why can't I think of Thor? Jeez, Fat Thor. Hashtag Dead Bod Thor. Now, I'm not going to go through their talk about the Black Widow problem because that's way too direct on spoilers. Same with Nebula. By the way, Nebula had like 40-something minutes in the film, and I thought she was an excellent character. In many ways, she was probably a main character in Endgame. At least that's my opinion. The Captain Marvel problem. Let's look at that. The Captain Marvel film premiered last month and already earned over $1 billion. By the way, no big deal. When you're film number 21 out of 22, where every film consecutively makes more film than the next for the most part, I'm not that impressed. I'm not that impressed that the entire U.S. cinema market has completely fallen off, and today's numbers are completely inflated by the Chinese market, right? So you didn't see the original Hulk, which I watched on TBS last night. I almost forgot that Edward Norton played Hulk at one point. People are forgetting that these films today in 2019 are going to the East and making $500 million on opening weekend. That just didn't happen 20 or 10 years ago. But nobody wants to acknowledge that fact. Apparently, the Chinese market, it's just so big. It's like Amazon. It's just the marketplace is so big, even a small player there makes a lot of money. Like Black Panther, which was also a mediocre movie in my opinion. It is something of a phenomenon that Brie Larson has been a non-stop press tour, well, since its premiere. In the majority of press events, she's been the woman Disney put forward, both as the face of the new heroines of the franchise and the new face of the franchise itself. It was safe to assume she was going to play a role in Endgame, though it may not be a huge one, given the need for the film to also swan-song a number of older popular characters. But what the film ends up doing with the character feels like a disservice. Yeah, you know what's funny? The whole like 15 minutes of screen time for Captain Marvel really felt more like 5. And honestly, she's very grating in the film, very cocky. There's a moment where they're like, yo, where have you been our whole life? Because you're so powerful. And she's like, girl, Earth ain't the only planet that matters out there. I got bigger fish to fry. And then, pew, flies off for 2 hours. I mean, it was about what I'd expect from Captain Marvel. It was like Brie Larson speaking, not Captain Marvel. But of course, I digress. Rather than symbolically taking up the reins from an established character or organically being integrated into the team, she will be a major part of what's going on forward. And the character slotted into a role awfully similar to Black Widow's in Age of Ultron's ferrying poop. She ferries Tony from space to Earth, ferries Thanos across a cabin so Thor can decapitate him. Ferries Thanos across a cabin so Thor can decapitate him, and then disappears for 2+ hours, only to show up and ferry a glove across a battlefield. Hey, you know, she also got punched in the face with the Power Stone. That was great. Her role in the film boils down to moving things around, revealing her new haircut, which was awful, and showing off her ability. And so was Hawkeye's haircut. The guy's like got to be pushing 50. What was that going on with that hair? As a character, she's virtually non-existent, and some of what can definitely be due to the film being shot before Captain Marvel. We shot Brie Larson before she shot her movie. She's saying lines for a character 20 years after her origin story, which no one has written yet, McFeely notes. Her backstory doesn't even exist, but a lot of it boils down to a choice made by the filmmakers. They choose not to integrate her into the plot or the team. Though these films had been planned for years. Well, I don't know, but one possible reason for this might be that the directors didn't know how the audience would enjoy Captain Marvel, and as one of the lowest rated Marvel movies in history, I guess they might have made the right decision. Her role is too big to be considered a cameo or an Easter egg, but far too small to be satisfying, especially to those who quickly grew attached to her thanks to her solo film. Carol Danvers is so pointless to the story that I found myself questioning why she was even in the movie. Me too. She didn't need to be there. She was clearly. There are a couple problems that Captain Marvel solves in the movie that could have been solved a number of ways. So to me, it's very obvious that she was tacked on. I don't know how much hit the cutting room floor, but she's virtually irrelevant. Their cameo problem, obviously, there's that. I don't want to go through that because that's a little spoilery too. But, you know, Scarlet Witch is pretty BA in this film, I will tell you that much. Endgame is filled to the brim with female characters, but the film is content to use them as props. We have no idea if that will be the same for the franchise going forward. To be honest, I don't care. After this film, I'm over it. I'm done. I am interested in Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm interested in Doctor Strange, but I would be willing to bet at this point my interest in them will be so tepid that I will be happy to wait for them to come out on DVD or streaming service. It's just, I wanted to see the Avengers story arc brought to an end, and I thought Endgame did a okay job of it. I keep teasing doing an Endgame review, but I don't want to spoil the movie, and I know there's a lot of people that still haven't seen it. Maybe I'll do one. I don't know. I keep hemming and hawing around it, but we have no idea if it'll be the same in the franchise going forward, in spite of the fact that women are some of the biggest and most popular characters left alive. Marcus and McFeely's bald words about Black Widow don't inspire hope, and they did something powerful when they killed her off. They did something powerfully stupid. Well, I guess mild spoiler. But as with anything, any Marvel film, as Endgame will prove, nothing's forever. They can just go back and fix or bring people back or go to a different dimension or do whatever the heck they want. There was a lot about the new Marvel film that I didn't enjoy, but this article, this diatribe is unbelievable. If you've already seen Endgame, you know, it's worth a laugh read. But if you haven't, I would definitely just wait. Overall, I mean, the idea that movies owe you anything more than to entertain you is absurd, but it's not that uncommon given the population that we have that expects everyone to do everything for them all the time. Enjoy Endgame. The story's over for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.